In this video, we're going to show you how you can sell $600,000 on Amazon. I'm joined with Brock Thompson. He's my guest today on the Amazon Savages podcast. Let's dive into it, baby.
Welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast. Hear the stories of Amazon sellers crushing it in the game and keep up with the latest strategies that are working. Sit back, relax, and remember, if you truly try and work really hard, you will make a ridiculous amount of money selling on Amazon.
But you actually have to try. You got to put effort in. This shit is not easy. Welcome to the pod, Brock. You've sold $600K lifetime on Amazon. That's 70% online arbitrage, 30% wholesale this year. You're at 20,000 in sales the last 30 days. Excited to have you here. If you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got started, that'd be amazing.
Yes, sir. We make it look easy, but as you know, it's a lot of hard work. Been at it about 3.5 years now and had very humble beginnings. When I was I'm almost 24 now. So when I was about 19, 20 years old, I had a lawn care company, and I was really starting to hate that because I've been doing it since I was about 15, 16. I was like, my God, if I could just make money from my laptop, that would be really cool. So I started doing my research, and, if I'd say anybody watching this podcast has at some point in their life Googled how to make money online, and you see a bunch of bullshit, like, do reviews on this, that, or the other, and you'll make a nickel here, a nickel there. And it's just, articles that don't really do much for you. Become an influencer, which sounds great, but, it's easier said than done.
Hey, we're influencers, aren't we? We're influencers out here.
At this point, we figured it out. But so then I got into yard selling. I was a Gary Vee fan from, high school age, and he starts talking about yard selling. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So I start going out on the weekends, Friday, Saturday morning, 6, 7 a.m. And that was the start. That was the spark. Finding $10, $12, $20 worth of stuff, making $100, $200, $300, yard sale to eBay, garage sale to eBay, estate sale to eBay. And from there, I one day saw a video, a podcast, kind of like this one, right? Except they were there in person together, of a guy that you and I know named Reezy Resells. And he was interviewing Gary in his office in New York City and talking about this opportunity called Amazon selling that he had been doing for years. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I'm already selling stuff on eBay. Let me start an Amazon account. So I start the Amazon account and realized that the very easiest way to get started, because of some of Amazon's initial restrictions, is to sell used books. Because besides, as you know, you have a service called restricted inventory. Besides those,
hey, restrictedinventory.com, baby.
Hold on. Grind hard.
I got.
Grind hard. Well done, sir. And welcome to the freaking Well Show.
Yes, he ran it up. Restrictedinventory.com. And the reason I was saying that is because if you're a new seller and you find, say you're cherry picking, meaning you're going to buy individual books from a thrift store or another source like similar to that, you run across the textbook, it's possible that the rights owner of the textbook will not allow you to sell that book. Other books are fine. So anyways, Avery can help you with that. With restricted inventory, and you can send him your books, and you all split the commission. Pretty cool service. I've used it myself, but
appreciate that.
So I got into books, and I started cherry picking at Goodwill and Salvation Army, estate sales, which is a really good source, by the way, for the high dollar books. People people that pass away often have good collections of books. They have encyclopedia sets, and they have stuff that they've had their whole lives, and what's theirs could now be yours for a couple dollars. And I've turned $5 books from an estate sale into $400, $500. I've turned $10 encyclopedia sets into $1,000. So just like that, books is not only the easiest to get into, it's the highest ROI opportunity and the lowest barrier to entry. Because
people always ask, are books still good to sell in 2023? And it's like, the margins are just so incredibly high. The ROI is so incredibly high. Just don't send shit in. if you're going to start selling books on Amazon, it's very important in 2023, since the removal fees are so high. Don't send crap books in because they cost $2, $3, probably $4 by the time you guys are watching this video. So I guarantee you, somebody out there watching this video in the future, there's $4 removal fees. Comment below when the removal fees are $4. But I mean, books are the ROI is there, the margins there. Used books aren't going anywhere. Like, it's the best way to start. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And more important than the return is the barrier to entry. I mean, you can spend $1 and take that chance of making money. And if you don't, hopefully $1 is not too much for you. If it is, then don't sell on Amazon, please.
Yeah. I would say the barrier to entry on like the purchasing side is very low, but the barrier to entry on the work is much higher. People don't want to put the work in.
Yeah.
People don't want to drive around. People don't want to go to estate sales. People don't want to go to garage sales. And so while if people could buy books online at the prices that we buy them for in thrift stores, it'd be game over. Like, it'd be oversaturated. Everyone would do it. But the fact that you have to get in your car, fucking drive around town, get off your lazy ass, go find some fucking inventory. Nobody wants to do that. And that's why you're able to take $1,000 and turn it into $4,000 in a weekend, literally, but nobody wants to do it. Everybody wants OA. And so we'll get into that because that was what you did next, right?
Yeah. So I got into OA, and I'll back up a little bit because there's a reason for that. Once I got through with cherry picking books, I was probably watching more videos. I know Reezy was doing a bulk book operation at the time, right before COVID, right? And so I thought, okay, that's really cool. He's making a lot more money. It obviously takes a warehouse to do that, but I'm going to figure that out. So I've got several Goodwills in my area, and there's one main warehouse near my house. So I sent an email and just, kind of found out what a good price range per pound was for used books, which anywhere from, if you're getting in the bulk game, like 4 cents a pound is a great deal. Don't go higher than 10. But I started at 8 cents a pound. I got them down to 6. But that transitions into about $60 per pallet, just because 1,000 pounds of books at 6 cents a pound, you do the math. And that's about what a pallet of books weighs, usually 900, 1,000, something like that. So you could imagine getting into bulk books is super cheap to do, even when you're buying at that quantity, as long as you have the space to go through them. And so I was taking a $60 risk per pallet of books, turning it into 200 or 300, maybe 4 or 5 if I got lucky. And usually there was one book in every pallet. Now, this might not be everybody's experience, but usually I'd find one book that would pay for the pallet in each book, each pallet. So that was pretty cool. But moving into OA, I was doing a bulk book operation. I had a couple employees working local for me. I got a sweet spot just down the road from my house. And my supplier was plain and simply Goodwill. That's who supplied me my books. And it was actually their duds, but their form of, filtering these books is nowhere near what it is that we need to sell on Amazon. So it was almost like fresh inventory. Like, I didn't feel like they were picked over or anything like that. Although some of them had those annoying, really, really highly adhesive stickers on them that you can't get off. And that really sucked. But anyways, I think maybe a year after, that's when those restock limits started to hit. And anybody in the bulk game, and really cherry picking game too, knows that when you have that slow moving book inventory, your restock limits go way down. And
now they're called capacity limits, but it's the same difference.
Yeah, I thought restock limits was a stupid name anyways. It didn't really make sense. But I went down
first, they had storage limits, then they had restock limits, now they have capacity limits, and who knows what they'll have in the future. But bottom line, they try to limit you on what you can send in.
Yeah, basically, I mean, it's good on their part. It sucks for us, but like, they realized that they had so much trash in their warehouses and nobody was getting really penalized for it, or really paying a fair share to have that much shit stored in their warehouses. So then they implemented those limits so that people would either sell through their junk or have it sent back to them or have it disposed of. And it's probably not bad. I've not had slower inventory like that since I sold books, but it's that Q4 time where they always just tighten it way up, and it makes it really difficult to have all books at FBA unless they're very fast moving. So, but moving into OA, that's why I started getting into OA, because of those restock limits. I needed faster products. And when you're doing bulk books, it's either you start a merchant fulfilled operation during those times so you can keep selling your profitable inventory, or you could go into OA or wholesale, just another branch of what Amazon can be. And so I started learning how to source. And believe it or not, if you've only been a bookseller since you started, OA sourcing is a totally new game. It's like it's kind of like starting over. Like you don't really, reading the Keepa charts is a little bit different game you're playing, and you've got to become really good.
Much more risk too with your money. Like if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I spent $500 on books, I'm like, all right, worst case scenario, I'll make $1,000, But if somebody comes to me like, I spent $500 on this one ASIN, and I can look at the Keepa and be like, dude, that's never going to sell.
Yeah.
And so very different games.
And there's so many factors about the Keepa. Shout out to
Dude, I thought I knew Keepa. My first week doing online arbitrage, I'm posting on YouTube all the time, everything. I was like, I'm going to make a course on Keepa. Like, I know Keepa so well because, I had done like book arbitrage and shit. Yeah. Dude, my first week in OA, I was like, I don't know anything about Keepa. This was last year when I started posting my YouTube videos. I'm like, I don't know anything. I didn't know about all the other tabs. There's like 5 other tabs, 6 other tabs. Offers tab. There's variations. Anyway, it's like you're saying, it is a completely different game.
The biggest shot in the foot to myself, and it's not really, I guess, I'll take, the blame for it, but it's just, what I call the dummy tax. You just don't know it till you do, and the biggest shot in the foot for me with Keepa was not knowing what variations were, or I knew what they were, but I didn't know how important they were. So you see a product, and if you don't know any better, you'll see it selling 600 times a month. You're like, hell yeah, this is going to be easy.
Yeah.
Then you
size
buy
4
like
shoe,
20 units.
size 4 men's shoe.
Yeah, like the kids 1.5 or something, or the size 15. And so you send all those in, and you're like, this is going to be great. And they do nothing. And you're like, it sells 600 times a month. What's happening? No. The listing sells 600 times, but that's divided by the number of variations. And you don't want to, some people will suggest that you go in and like, if it sells 500 times a month and there's 10 variations, you can assume that it's going to sell 50 a month per variation, but you really want to dig in and actually look at each variation because some of them are getting 90% of the sales and the other ones are getting none, or 10 or less. So that's
and how are you determining that?
There's a couple ways. You can look at, Keepa will show you the reviews and ratings percentage. And so although you can't, this would be a great feature, I guess it's just not possible unless I don't know any better. But although you can't see the actual number of sales a single variation gets, you can see the percentage of ratings and reviews, which basically equates the same way. If a product is getting 90% of the ratings, it's probably getting 90% of the sales. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Now I would also say the offers tab is huge too. If you guys click on the offers tab, back in the day, the way selling on Amazon worked, or the way a lot of private label guys would try to like stock the competition, is they would look at, like, let's say you want a private label, a dongle, which is an adapter for an iPhone. What you would do is you would look at all the other sellers, and you would just every day you would check their stock. And if their stock was like 900, you would try to add their items to your cart. 999, it would be the 999 trick. So you try to add 999 items to a cart, and they say only 766 are available. You come back the next day, and maybe only 746 were available. So therefore, you could insinuate 20 sold. And so Keepa now has, if you go to the offers tab on Keepa, it actually tracks all the seller's stock on a day by day basis. So it does that automatically for you. And it's a pretty good way to kind of insinuate how much is a particular variation selling or just a listing as a whole. And so that's what I use a bunch. Do you use that one that much?
Actually, that's what I use the most. And what I like to do is I like to take multiple tools that are kind of sharing the same data in different ways and make my own consensus about what the actual is. And I'll start with Seller Amp and I'll look at those sales per month. And they're usually pretty accurate, but sometimes it'll say like a product sells 5 times a month because maybe the sales rank is not active and it's not working, because sometimes the sales rank is like broken, like it just doesn't work. And then you'll go into that offers tab and see that, say, the top 5 sellers have sold 30 units each that month. And so you're manually seeing that this product actually sells, even though these fancy calculators don't tell you so, because of that stock count. So
exactly, yeah.
And there's also things that you've just kind of got to trial and error with. I mean, we can tell you about them, but like with the stock counts, a lot of times you'll see a big drop as soon as a person stocks the item. Say they got 20 units and it'll drop to 0. And that usually means it's just what I've come up with, that I think that like it's stocked and then it's got into facility transfer or something, and then it stocks again. And so that first drop doesn't mean they actually sold 20 units down to 0. It just means like it showed in stock for a hot second. And then the next, you'll see it stocks for 20 again. And that's when the sales start to trickle down in a more natural way. And that's the actual sales most of the time. So, I mean, do you kind of have that same experience?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, dude, like I said, when I started OA, like all this was brand new to me. So like looking at the Keepa offers tab and all that was just stuff I'd never experienced before. I would also say, like, look out if you see like somebody's stock goes from 999 to 0, that doesn't mean they sold 999. Like he's saying, it's a facility center transfer. Maybe they updated their stock, something else.
Yeah. So none of the tools, although there's some amazing tools out there, Keepa and Seller Amp are my top 2, wouldn't be in business without them. Nothing's 100% accurate. So that's why you've got to use a couple tools to kind of make your own predictions. And after some time, you can kind of see through the gray areas and make really good predictions. You've got to be a great predictor. And it's just through trial and error, learning from friends, learning from this podcast, and being able to predict what the data actually means. Because sometimes what it says is not exactly accurate. But you can see through that by knowing what happens all the time, just like those false drops on the stock counts. See, I mean, like I had a virtual assistant that kept telling me, you know, this product sold 1,000 times the last 30 days. I'm like, no, it didn't. And I don't know why people will stock, you know, they'll put 1,000 on and then it goes away. I don't know why that happens, but it's just,
I think it's like a default Amazon thing. I think Amazon defaults people's stock to 1,000 sometimes.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
There's some unknowns like that we just kind of,
or maybe like Keepa retrieves the data as 1,000. Maybe it's not actually 1,000 in stock, but there's something definitely weird going on there with 1,000 in stock.
Maybe it's a certain listing software or something like that, where it like defaults to that before it actually goes to the stock count that they have.
Maybe, but it's happened to me before on like inventory that I certainly only have 1 in stock. It's at 1,000 in stock. So I think it's like the way that Keepa retrieves the data from Amazon. It's like, if there is no stock available, then let's say it has 1,000 or something.
And it's also really helpful. I mean, this is part of having skin in the game. When you can go onto your own products that you're selling and watch that stock count go down, and if something funky happens, you know what kind of stock you have. So it helps you to understand better what other people are doing who you don't know exactly how many they actually sent in. Or, I mean, there's weird things that happen to your stock, and you can say, okay, I know what that means now. I know why.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's helpful anyways.
Yeah. So what tips would you have for, I mean, like at this point, you're at 20,000 in sales a month. What tips would you have for people to get to that level? Because a lot of people out there are just like, shit, I'm at 1,000 in sales a month, or I'm at 0 in sales.
Well, the first 10,000 is the hardest to get to, but to maintain is not hard at all. Once you hit the 10,000 or once you hit 1,000, you'll find that it's just as easy to continue it as it was to get there. Or well, it's just as easy to continue it anyways. But first of all, starting with your own competence, you need to be very well versed in your sourcing methods, knowing what reverse sourcing is, knowing what storefront stalking is, how what the best tools are to do it. And I'm still learning, because the reason I say you need to be good at that first is because then that goes into working with virtual assistants. And that's something I thought I may never have, because it just sounded so bizarre. But today I have 2 people from halfway around the world in the Philippines that work for me 40 hours a week. And they actively source online arbitrage products, and they actively go through wholesale catalogs of my wholesale suppliers, and they continually look at those catalogs every now and then to look for new items, to look for deals from the warehouses. But back to OA anyways, that's what helps you stay consistent. You can be consistent yourself doing your own sourcing. I know people that do it all on their own, nothing wrong with it. But for me, I decided to work with some VAs. I found some people that were pretty experienced right off the bat from onlinejobs.ph. So if you're interested in a virtual assistant, there's onlinejobs.ph. Our friend Carter also has a service that places a VA with you, and I've heard some pretty good reviews about it, by the way. But anyways, I went through there. I interviewed the people. I kind of had some experience with interviewing people, like just business experience with that. So that was not a problem for me. And luckily, they had worked for somebody in the past. So got 2 VAs, virtual assistants, if you're not familiar, the listeners out there. And they actively source products for me. And what's most important about that is that I know the most about the sourcing methods, because they're going to supply the leads every day. But if you blindly hire a VA and say, oh, I'm in the OA game now, I've got a VA, I'm really cool, you're going to be really sadly mistaken when you buy all the leads that your VAs supply, because a lot of what they're going to give you is stuff that could potentially be something you need to purchase. And you need to have the tools that it takes to vet those leads. And you need to have the experience to know whether or not you want to buy something, how much you want to buy of it, how much it's going to sell each month, and if you should place recurring orders on those products.
Walk us through what kind of spend goals you have each month, how much you're looking to spend, what kind of ROI are you looking for that on that product, and just like your overall process for purchasing.
Yeah, so I have a very basic model, I guess you could say, for spend versus sales goals. First of all, if you want to sell X amount per month, this is just OA. Books are different, and it totally varies by your sourcing criteria. But for me, it's literally as simple as, if I want to sell $20,000 a month, I should spend $10,000 on inventory, and the next month or the next 4 to 8 weeks, I should see the $20,000 in sales as a result, as a good $10,000 spend. Now, as far as criteria, I split it into 2 ways with OA and wholesale. OA is a little bit more of a competitive space. It's a lower barrier to entry than wholesale is. Anybody can get on Walmart.com and make purchases. Not everybody can strike a deal with their local warehouse. So with that being said, the OA criteria that I go by is a 30% ROI, and a $4 net profit. Normally would be $3, but I work with a prep center, which we'll get into that next, who charges a fee. So I go for a $4 profit minimum or a 30% ROI, so that I can swallow that small fee from the prep center. And then on the wholesale side, where not all the time, but sometimes there's less competition or less fluctuation in the in that product and its price, because there's it's just bigger players usually in the wholesale space, and they're working with either direct to manufacturer or directly with a distributor that's working directly with the manufacturer. So with that being said, the market on those wholesale products is often steadier, not all times, but a lot of times it is. And so I'll go as low as $1 profit or a 20% ROI in wholesale. And that's for a very, very dependable product is what I consider it. So two different there, 20%, $1 wholesale, 30%, and $4 OA.
And do you have a spend goal? Like, do you have like I want to spend 10,000 this month?
Yes, my current spend goal is 5,000 per week, which, like I mentioned earlier, would produce 40,000 in sales in a month's time. In recent time, I've had a little bit of struggle just with both on the wholesale and the OA side, because of on the OA side, order cancellations. It's something you have to live with in OA. And sometimes you'll think you've met your goal for the week, and then, the weekend's up and you're like, damn, I had a $1,000 order cancel, or, it can really dig into it sometimes.
Yeah. But I'm sure some weeks you spend like 10K and other weeks you spend like 1K.
Yes, at times there will be a single product. Some people call them like, what do they call them? Like unicorn products, right?
Yeah. But did Taylor make that one up?
I don't know. I think it's
Taylor always calls it unicorn opportunities.
Yeah, I don't know who did. I call them gold. This is my version. I call them gold plated. I just think that's gold-plated. Cool. Like, I'm like, this is a gold plated lead. Like, it's just so strong. I don't see it breaking. Competition's low, profits high. And usually what's going to happen is, if with those gold plated leads, is if you don't buy as much as possible, it's going to go out of stock anyways, because other people think the same thing on the OA side. So, right. But you're right. I mean, there's products, I'd say on a single ASIN, the most I've spent, hope it's more one day, but I would say like $3,000 to $5,000 on a single ASIN. That's just on one purchase though. Like if I reordered it, it could have been another $3,000 to $5,000. Usually, a product like that, I make a lot of money off of products that are hard to get, products that are in shortage. And I'm not talking about baby formula or toilet paper. I don't profit off of necessities. I profit off of things that people don't need, but they really want. Like, not afraid to say this product now because it doesn't have the demand that it did. Had a big manufacturing issue for a while. But in the past, it's probably been 3 or 4 months since I've sold it. And now the production has picked up, and it was a huge TikTok craze. And there was a product called Slime Lickers, and it literally looked like a bottle of that icy hot with the roller ball on top that you lick with your tongue. And it had major issues with the supply chain. And I had a wholesale supplier that had access to it, and I made a lot of money with that product because of the shortage. And I'm sure, Avery, you could speak on some products we made some money on during COVID because of the same things. Not products that are, necessities, but just stuff that people really want badly.
Yeah, I mean, during COVID, dude, I was just selling books.
Yeah.
Running restrictedinventory.com. But the year after that, that's when Chlorine happened, and that's when I went crazy. That was my first time selling product. Like, I remember I went out to a store with Taylor. I was like, let's shoot a video at Lowe's. And so we went to Lowe's together. And he was like, oh my gosh. Taylor, he's like, oh my gosh. He was like, dude, this is so good. He's like, don't put this on video. And he was like, dude, all this is going to sell before we get home. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Like, we had carts filled with Chlorine. And he's like, this is all going to sell before we get home. And I'm like, this kid's full of shit. Like, this broke boy doing retail arbitrage for a living. Like, I'm just out here trying to make a YouTube video and get some hype. Dude, all of them fucking sold before we got home. And no, they sold the night. They sold by that night. I don't know if they sold by the time we got home, but they sold that night. And I was just like, and they sold for like, dude, it was like 100% ROI or something.
Yeah.
And so then a few months later, it was still there. The Chlorine shortage was still there a few months later. And I had a friend that was making like 200K profit a month off of this. 17 years old. And I'm just like, I'm not going to let a 17-year-old make 200K profit and me get nothing, you know? And so I went hard like 6 weeks. I flew like 30 plus people around the country, like to Los Angeles, to shout out Becky. She's probably listening to this. She was in Texas. She went out for me. Miami, I hired some guy from Craigslist that stole $600 from me in Texas. This 7-foot human in Seattle, possibly Sasquatch, stole. He held $6K ransom of the Chlorine. He held $6K worth of inventory ransom and said, "Pay me." Had a big fuss on social media. Do you remember that? I called him out on social media.
Flying people around, but of course at the time you weren't talking about the product.
I wasn't really talking about it much, no.
Yeah.
But I did make a big fuss on social media when Jason still he had $6K worth of Chlorine. He held ransom. Anyway, I say all that to like that was my first time selling product other than books. I've always been a bookseller, but that was my first time. And after that, I was like, I made 30,000 true net profit in 6 weeks. But still, I was like, holy shit. Like, that's 30 bands in 6 weeks. Pretty good. And then that's when I kind of like had my eyes open for other opportunities ever since.
Absolutely. And I'm going to pull up a picture for you guys. I remember my first OA product when I was, I had decided, I was like, okay, if I can sell this much OA, or if I can figure this out, it'll take me this long to get out of doing bulk books. But I'm going to find this and show you. Here it is. This was August 28th, 2021. So it's almost 2 years ago to the day. And here's me with a patio heater holding up the number one.
Yeah, I never got in on those, but those were lit.
Yeah. I went to.
People were making money on those last year, right?
It was 2 years ago. Maybe it came back a little bit. I don't know.
I think people were trying to last year. I don't know if they popped off or not.
Yeah, that's the funny part about like the seasonal things like pools and heaters. People that don't know any better will like buy a bunch again, and then they're like, they're stuck because they don't realize that it was, a manufacturing thing, not a product thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So that one came from Home Depot, I think, and it was my first item. And I remember, similar to your Chlorine experience, which I had that exact same experience with Chlorine at Lowe's. I got one patio heater because it was like still $150. And I was like, that's a lot of money when I'm used to being a bookseller. And I bought the patio heater. I listed it inside of Home Depot. I go out to the truck, put it in, and I get on my phone and I look at the stock again. I'm like, the stock's zero. Like I listed one and the stock's zero, and I didn't see the sale. And I was like, what the hell? I almost restocked it with another unit. And then I realized the sales caught up and I had sold it within a couple minutes just during checkout.
Yeah,
so I freaked out.
It's insane. That doesn't happen with used books.
No.
Used books, you'll have 1,000 in stock. And if you're lucky, you'll sell 300 a month, which ain't bad, 30%. But with other products, I mean, you can list 1,000 in a day and potentially sell 1,000 in a day if it's that fast of a moving product,
Yeah. And I remember probably one of the hottest reselling videos in the last few years was Reezy's patio heater video. And I don't know how many views it has, but I'd say it's in the millions.
It got him like, he was talking about this at Miami Sellers Conference. It got him like, and shout out to Austin, because Austin was actually the one that came up with the idea and edited that video. Austin, what's his IG? I'm blanking. Is it just Austin?
Austin, but it's spelled AUTSYN. It's like spelled
Austin.
Austin.
So
Austin. Yeah,
I'm sure it's gotten him 100K subs at this point, but at one point it got him 75,000 subs, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Were so angry because he loves the clickbait, man. Is how
that was Austin that came up with that.
Oh yeah,
like the legally robbing Home Depot
with 40 grand.
Yeah, and it's true. He did.
Yeah,
it was all legal, and he did get 40 bands from it. So
Austin, he's the GOAT when it comes to captions and.
Dude, he's like a little Hormozy, man. He's a big Hormozy, actually. I bet he's taller than him, but he's smart.
Yeah, smart kid. Tall. He's tall. Seems
what's your replen strategy looking like? What are you doing for? Are you replanning much? Are you using your VAs to purchase more? Are they always finding new stuff? I know with online arbitrage, replenishing can be difficult.
Yeah. So I'm at the point where it's always smart to test buy. And at some point, though, you get comfortable with, especially if your cash flow is good, you get comfortable with, your test buy may not always be 6 to 10 units. I suggest 10 is a great, like, if I could give you one number as a test buy out there, 10 units. That's, always a great number to start with. 6 is my minimum. But at this point, with OA it is increasing in competition a little bit. Sometimes it's smart to test buy 20 or 30 units, knowing that it's probably not going to be there on the next go around. So
Exactly.
yeah.
How often are you able to replenish?
With the number of leads I buy, I'd say it's 10% of the time.
10%. What about wholesale? All that stuff's replenishable?
Much more replenishable, just because of the competition's different. And just to be honest, it's not always this way, but these guys that are doing wholesale aren't as they're more seasoned, and so they don't freak out when it drops a nickel. And you'll see OA listings, the sellers go way up and the prices go.
Bunch of beginners out there.
Yeah, and they think that they've got to
they're
raise
freaking out. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get my $18 back. I better, they're not patient.
It's very common to have a wholesale listing where there's 6 to 10 sellers on there. And they all got it from a distributor, probably none from the manufacturer. We all got it in the same way, just from a different distributor. And you'll see that price is just perfectly in line, and it even is sharing the buy box well. It's not even that there's a person hogging it. It's just, we're just not being stupid. We're just making money, So that's the glory of wholesale, and that's why I like it best. It's harder to get into, but it's also a whole lot better opportunity overall, I think. I think that, and I know people that sell millions of dollars doing OA per year, but I still think that at the biggest scale possible, if you want to be a huge Amazon seller, I think there does start to be a cap on OA. And if you want to be bigger than that, you do have to move into wholesale at some point. And when you have the sales and the experience to go with it, it's not a big feat to make those connections and say, hey, I do, just for example, $100,000 a month on Amazon. I'd like to partner with you and sell.
Don't lie to me, Brock. We already know you do 20,000 a month.
Right. Right.
20,000 sounds good. That sounds good.
Right. And I'm just saying, as it gets bigger.
Right now you're spending 20,000 a month. That's your goal, right?
Yes.
And so you want to be at 40K sales. Call a distributor, wholesaler. If you're able to spend 20K a month, that's a decent size client for them.
Yeah. And I can talk about that because about a week or two ago, I secured another wholesale supplier, and it's working out well for me. And for this, I just had my first order come through the other day, and where they're used to supplying retail stores, they're used to stores buying one case of this, one case of that. And I come through and I'm like, okay, I want 10 of this, 20 of that in cases. And so the problem we ran into at first is that the warehouse has the connection for that product, but they just didn't have it in stock. So I got a lot less than I was expecting. But here in the next few weeks, it'll catch up and I'll get that stuff. And so I thought I spent more, but they were only just able to supply a fraction of that, but it'll catch up anyways. So 20K spend will produce 40K a month. And then when I reap the benefit of that and get the profit back, I'll be able to turn that into 25K spend and make it 50, and 30K spend and make it 60. And really going slower or going faster doesn't always make you more money. It can just increase your sales. So it's not a bad thing to go slower with your increase each month. And
100%.
Yeah. So, it's hard to have a balance of growth and making money at the same time. Not impossible, but at times it's good to just choose one and say, okay, for the next 3 months or next 6 months, we're just going to grow, and we're not going to see a big change in the bank balance maybe, but we're going to have crazy sales. And then when we settle out and just keep ringing in that, say, 50K a month, 80K a month, that's where the profit is like, much better than it was at 20K where I'm at right now. So I understand all those things. It's literally just time and effort to catch up with what I'm doing. So I feel really good about where I'm at 3.5 years in.
Heck yeah. So you're locked in a room with yourself. Let's go back a few years. All you have, the older version of yourself. You get to go back and talk to the older version of yourself. All he has is $1,000 in the bank. He needs to turn that $1,000 into $100,000 in 12 months. What's the fastest way to do that with Amazon?
With Amazon, the fastest way to turn $1,000 into $100,000, it's a big feat. That's a big feat.
12 months.
I would say online arbitrage would be the quickest model. And I'm not saying that 1,000 is a lot to start with. You should have gave me.
What's your day-to-day look like? What are you telling that version of Brock? You're like, look, this is what you got to do. What are you telling him? You're like, online arbitrage, but he doesn't know what online arbitrage is.
Okay. I would say a mix of retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, and also a mix of FBA and merchant fulfilled, so that you're getting that money back quicker. But
you
that's
tell them to
where
go
you're
after
gonna
fast moving stuff, high ROI stuff. What are you telling them to focus on?
Both. If you're trying to get to 100 grand quick, you've got to go for both, and you've got to sacrifice that. Even though there's profit, you'll find profitable products every day. And if you're trying to grow faster, there's some things you're going to have to say that's good, but just not for right now. And I'm going to go for these products that are at 40 and 50% ROI, and these products that sell 100 plus times a month versus 30 or 40. And, one day when I'm looking to, not grow so fast, but just have as much ASINs as possible, we can go for the slower stuff and still make money. But when you're getting started, you're going to want to go for an even higher ROI and a higher velocity, so that you make as few mistakes as possible. Because if you buy something that's slower, just a little bit slower than it should be, and especially if maybe you're using a credit card, that's going to run you into trouble. And so you're going to want to just be very thoughtful about the inventory you purchase starting out, and just feel like you've always got gold-plated leads in your hands.
Gold-plated leads, baby. That's the key.
Gold-plated leads.
I want to hear about your plan for Q4. But before we get into that, all my listeners, I have a special offer for you guys for listening this far into the pod. Speaking of replans, we spoke briefly on it. Replans are, they're awesome when they happen. And so it's important to keep an eye out for them. At GoToLister, that's GoToLister.com. We have, can you see my screen? Boom. So we now have a replan sheet for GoToLister users. This is 100% free. And you guys can sign up for a free trial of GoToLister, GoToLister.com. As Amazon sellers, you need a listing software. GoToLister is a listing software that I've been working on for the past 2 years. And currently, it is the fastest listing software on planet Earth. There's no software that allows you to have a faster workflow than GoToLister. That's just the way we programmed it. And so I've done something special for online arbitrage and wholesale people. Basically, there's 2 tabs here. You can download this data from GoToLister, all your listing data, you paste it in this tab, all your sales data, which is downloadable through the orders tab of GoToLister. You add that there. And then what happens is this spreadsheet's going to show you what items to purchase based on your sales history. So this is going to tell you a 4-week supply of inventory, and this is factoring in what you've listed and what you've sold. So it's not going to help. It's not going to have you overstock on inventory, because as long as you're listing with GoToLister, for example, these Nike shorts, it knows that maybe you listed 50 of these, but maybe you sold 200 in the last, or maybe your 28-day sales is 200. So based on your sales data, you're going to sell 200 in the future. Based on what you currently have listed on the way to Amazon or at Amazon, you have 50 in stock. And so you need to buy 150 more if you want a 30-day supply. So that's going to come up here. It's going to give you that number of how much you should purchase. It's going to tell you, yes, you should buy. And this happens automatically. All you need to do is paste 2 reports directly from GoToLister.com, which we have all your sales reports and everything in here. We also tell you your total profit on a day-to-day basis, so you can see how much profit you're making daily. This is factoring in Amazon fees, what you paid for the inventory, and GoToLister really allows you to, not only list your inventory, whether it's FBA, MF, create shipments. You can create 99. You can do 99% of the shipment in GoToLister. All you have to do is go to Seller Central to finish up the shipment, and then GoToLister helps you track and manage all your inventory. So go to GoToLister.com, and then after you sign up, since you watched this far in the podcast, just message us, I want the replen sheet. You can use code Brock, message us support@GoToLister.com, and just message us Brock. It's BROCK.
Yep.
And we'll send you over that replen sheet and make sure you're good to go on that. And guys, remember, this is a 14-day free trial. Brock just signed up for this the other day. He had some pretty good feedback.
Yes.
So I appreciate you, Brock. But,
hey, will that code work for me?
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
Cool.
We can set you up an affiliate link, man. Everyone that messages Brock will give you a quarter of the revenue.
Yeah.
That's how it
Don't
works.
sign up unless it's through me. Please and thanks.
Message us, Brock, guys. This is we're how far are we in the pod? 46 minutes in the pod. Brock, support@GoToLister.com, and then we'll send you that replen sheet. You'll get the trial already as long as you signed up. Make sure to email us from the same email that you signed up for your free trial, and we'll get your affiliate link set up, Brock.
All right, that sounds good.
Q4 strategy. Back to the pod.
Q4 strategy.
Tell us overall, what's your Q4 strategy with wholesale, with online arbitrage? We talked a little bit about this in Costa Rica.
Oh yeah.
But I want to hear, now that you've internalized that, what are you thinking you're going to do for this Q4?
Yeah. So actually, I can also add to like that question you gave me a minute ago, like how would you get to 100K from 1,000 very quickly?
Yep.
Very important to utilize a prep center, because that's getting your time back. And I made a video on this on my Instagram, and if you look right here, you'll see @TheFlippin'Redneck. Give me a follow. I am posting a good bit, and I'll also answer your DMs if you have questions. But using a prep center is very important.
We'll link that below too. We'll link his IG, so you can just click on it. That'll be in the YouTube description too.
Yes, that would be great. And you can follow me and we can be friends. And but here's the thing. There's only so many states in the United States that are sales tax free. My state of West Virginia is 7% sales tax. So when I buy something, I'll make this very basic, on Target.com for $100 worth of inventory, and I click checkout, what's it going to be? $107.
$7.
Yeah. And if I had sent that same inventory to a tax-free state like Montana, and there's a few more. There's I actually don't remember.
Oregon.
There's
New Hampshire. There's Delaware. Don't use Alaska, but Alaska is one too.
That would suck.
I think those are the 5.
Yeah, that would be terrible for check-in time. But yeah, so
Delaware, New Hampshire, Montana, Alaska, and then Oregon.
Mm-hmm. That those same inventory that I bought from Target, you go to checkout, you type in a zip code from any of those states, it goes to 0% sales tax. So you instantly save $7 per 100 or whatever it is in your state. I think Florida's even higher, like 9%. I know there's higher and lower. There's 6, there's 9. Which really sucks when you're trying to do OA. So you send that inventory to a prep center. They charge an average of about $1.50 per unit, at least in my experience. Sometimes it's less, but they have expense for polybagging.
Be willing to pay upwards of $2, guys. $2 in a tax-free state ain't bad, because if you're saving, for a $100 product, you'd be paying $7 sales tax, but now you're only paying $2.
Yeah.
And so even if you're paying $2 for prep, which may sound expensive, if they're a good prep center and they do a good job, it's better than paying for crappy prep. People look at, oh, it's $1 per unit. Guys, if you're gonna you get what you pay for. There might be some good prep centers charging $1 out there. I've had some in the past, but that's really cheap, and you're gonna get what you pay for. And so I apologize for all that noise.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. And
but yeah, you get what you pay for, you know, and it's a much better issue to be overpaying for prep than it is to have $10,000 of your inventory essentially held ransom by the prep center or lost, which will happen. Don't use Tiger Lily Prep.
I've seen,
Montana, Tiger Lily Prep.
Yeah.
I sent them tens of thousands worth of inventory. They probably lost 20 or 30 grand. No, not even joking. They lost a ton of my inventory. So, man, I was paying $1 per unit. I was getting good rates. Was it worth it? No.
That's so scary, man. And I saw pictures of like boxes all over their yard.
It was like a crack house. Guys, this was a prep center, and it was called, I think you can still go to the website, tigerlilyprep.com. And we just thought it was like a legit prep center. And then one of their clients drove there, somebody in the reselling community, and like took pictures, and it was like a little trailer home with a bunch of Kohl's boxes like outside so they could get rained on. I don't know if it rains in Montana or not, and they had like tarps and stuff. Like it was terrible.
Yeah. And I heard about a couple sellers that you and I know that worked with them too, and we're in the same predicament, you know? So that's terrible.
A lot of people got screwed.
You know, not likely that it'll happen like that again, but you know, vet your
there's bad preps out there, man. I've been screwed quite a few times. So be very careful. Just like anything in business, like don't go too deep on one ASIN. Don't send too much inventory to one prep if it hasn't been prepped yet. Meaning, like if you send $100,000 worth of inventory to a prep and they prep 90,000 is out the door, checked in at Amazon FBA, you're safe. You're safe to send them more. But if you send like even just 10,000 or even 5,000, if that's like a lot of your capital and they haven't prepped anything yet, hold tight. Let them prep it first. You know, put the sweat equity in. Like I recommend just prepping shit yourself if you can, starting out. Even if you don't live in a tax-free state, it might be worth it just to have that quick turnaround, you know?
Yeah, I agree, because like my prep center, first of all, I got really lucky, like with the prep center. I just was looking on probably a Facebook page for Amazon sellers or a forum, and there was all these comments about prep centers, and somebody just said, you know, they threw one up there. I was like, okay, you know, I'll try them out, because a lot of them weren't accepting new clients at the time. You know, some of the well-known ones are, you know, very busy. And so this was a newer prep center, and they were actually pretty cheap. You know, they started at $1 a unit. And it's just been a great experience. And I've been using them ever since. So I know some people have been through 3 or 4 and had terrible experience, but it's like every Friday clockwork for me. I get a bill in my email. I pay the bill. It ships out. And the only drawback is that if you get inventory into the warehouse on a Monday, it's going to sit till Friday, whatever your ship day is. And so you're going to have a little bit of extra time there. So it can also pay to do some of your own prep and kind of speed that up. But besides that, going back to Q4 strategy, for me, it's a few things. I'll list them out. First of all, having great training with my virtual assistants, making sure they know what they're doing, especially on the OA side. There's a lot of opportunity that doesn't stick around in Q4 when it comes to OA. And especially for those, you know, Christmas time deals, Black Friday deals, and they come and they go. So, and there's a lot of products that are in such high demand. There becomes like an issue with getting it because everybody wants it for, you know, Christmas gifts and whatnot. So anyways, having good VAs, they're really not hard to find. You just got to get a good one and also train them well. Don't recommend, you can train them from the ground up, but I recommend finding one that has some experience, finding out why they are not currently employed, and make sure that they aren't working for someone else currently, and continue to monitor that, because I did have to get rid of one because they worked for multiple sellers, which obviously causes problems with your leads. So good VAs, great prep center, and just have spend goals, set spend goals, and know what you're going to spend in a month. Because like I talked about earlier, what you spend directly correlates with what you're going to make, what you're going to sell. So that's the basic strategy for Q4. And on the wholesale side, I've got a great opportunity with a couple of wholesalers, distributors out there, and I'm just getting into the under the surface of that, and I feel that's going to go very well. And I'll be looking for more opportunities into Q4 with the seasonal items that they carry. So with that being said, that's my Q4 strategy.
Awesome. You guys can keep up with Brock Thompson by just following him. The link will be below as well. I'm sure you'll be posting a ton throughout Q4, leading up to Q4. You said your inbox, your DMs are open for questions. So if you guys have questions, this is a great resource.
Yeah.
He's doing 20K a month now. He's going to be doing 40K soon. Pretty soon he'll be doing 100K. Maybe by the end of the year.
All true.
I think there's a high chance.
Yes.
Very high chance. So proud of you, man, and excited for what you have in the future. And any last words or tips or anything for the people?
Stay consistent. If you don't have consistency, you have nothing. That's it.
Wise words from a young man. All right, guys. Much love. Peace out. Catch you in the next one.
See ya.